Cyber defense and artificial intelligence commanded most of the buzz at TechNet Cyber this year. Using AI for cybersecurity and securing AI tools and the data that feed them were the main categories of discussion. Jonathan Alboum is Federal Chief Technology Officer at ServiceNow. He says there are two ways government agencies should think about cyber and AI.
Start with how do we take advantage of these technologies in the cyberspace? I think a strong defense can be, your best offense. And so often that's about running a really secure infrastructure in the first place, having a strong approach to IT operations management and using these tools to help us understand what our environments really look like. We can train AIs to help us understand when we're deviating from normal. There's so much activity on these networks. And if we are required as practitioners to investigate every single thing that looks anomalous, we spend a lot of time chasing down maybe a false positive. So when the AI knows what normal looks like and can be very accurate in saying this isn't normal, there's something going on, we can train our limited resources right where it needs to be. And when we continue to train these AIs to understand what good cyber defense looks like, we can go from prevention into detection, like I said. But now, how do we respond when these incidents are happening? An AI can go in there and make recommendations, or maybe even through automation, isolate a machine that's pinging a bad address, or give us the intelligence to take a group of machines offline, or go into an email system, pull out phishing emails or other kinds of things. And then maybe in an unfortunate situation we've lost data and we have to recover. And an AI can get us started down that process. And ultimately, the humans are involved in this. Human in the loop with all these things, I think, at this point. But we want those humans to be as effective and focused as possible. And I think those are the real positive things that I'm hearing, and about ways that agencies in the DoD and across government are thinking about using these systems.
What are you seeing agencies doing with the people who are freed up now from doing the mundane, repetitive tasks that AI permits them to not have to do anymore? Where's that human bandwidth going?
Well, for a long time we've said we want people focused on the high value work. So I think you're asking what's the real high value work when it comes to cyber. Sometimes it's as simple as understanding what are all of these processes that are going on in this organization. How is this data being used? Where is it? How does it flow across the organization? What's the impact of these systems? And having a better view of the organization has been something that we've been after for a long time as CIOs and leaders in IT environments. I think we could train those resources, one, to use AI sometimes to help us with that, but that becomes a priority and a focus for an organization, as opposed to I'm constantly in this response mode and I'm fighting another fire and I don't have time to get my head around what am I actually managing and what does it all mean. I think that's a great use for people's time. Comprehensively as we free them up over these.
I'm going to take us back to one of the conversations that you and I had when you were still the CIO at the Agriculture Department. We talked about cyber, and I asked you in that conversation, could we get to a point ever where cybersecurity becomes a proactive exercise for the federal government instead of a reactive exercise? And it sounds like you're saying now that AI can help you and your peers across government to get there.
100%. If we're able to make that pivot, we can be, on the offense, right? When these bad things are happening. And there's bad things happening all the time. There's thousands and thousands of attacks every hour or attempts. And if we're able to be on the offense, you have far fewer of those have an impact. I do think there's one other, piece with this AI conversation that we can lose track of, right? We cannot let the technology outpace the humanity, right? So people have to stay in the loop. I mentioned human in the loop before. We can't get to the point where, agency leaders bring in these technologies and say it's a panacea. We don't have to worry any longer. And there's a small fear that I have that we get to the point where that's happening, and we start to negate the need for people in these roles, and we're going to start staffing other things. Mm-hmm. We can't, back off at this point on having the right people with the right training in these positions. And, at the same time, the AI is making decisions or it's mitigating a risk. Those decisions have to be understandable. by the people in that security office that has to have some transparency, and that's part of the cyber EO, right? Transparency and observability, and so much of that is can get lost in this conversation. We got to come back to the person. It always comes back to people, and I think if we're doing those kinds of things, AI becomes a real beneficial capability. We know the bad guys are using it. They're writing very sophisticated phishing emails or thinking about ways to avoid the systems we have in place to prevent them. The AI can help with that. So we really have to be on top of our game and remain ever vigilant, even with these additional great tools.